It's Tuesday, April 14th, 2026, and once again, we have some more severe weather to talk about, not just today, but tomorrow, the next day, the next day. Today looks pretty significant, though, especially for portions of Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, potentially Michigan, but we could also see some severe weather in the plains, central to southern plains, and then as we push through this week, Friday looks pretty volatile potentially as well. Once again, let's get right into it. We're starting off with our day one risk zone. You can see a large marginal stretching from the Texas-Mexico border up through the plains, through the Midwest, all the way out there towards New England, where we actually have a slight risk as well. Obviously, the main risk today is focused through portions of central to eastern Iowa, northern Illinois, and southern Wisconsin. Let's break this down here. Here's our tornado risk today. That is a 10% hatch risk for a tornado. That means there's a 10% chance that a tornado could touch down within 25 miles of any location in this yellow shaded area. It's 5% for the brown shaded area and 2% for the green shaded area. And you see these dash marks, we call that hatching, or now it's called Sig 1. That means we could see significant tornadoes, not just an EF0, EF1, a gustnado, but potentially an EF2. I think we could see an EF2 plus, even stronger than an EF2 tornado. We also got that hatched 2 to 5% down here through portions of Texas and Oklahoma. So please, please, please be paying attention today. Again, this tornado risk stretches all the way even through portions of Indiana, Ohio, and up there through Michigan and all the way down there through Texas. All right, let's push over to our wind risk today. Large wind risk. Right here, 5 to 15% chance that we could see thunderstorms capable of producing some damaging winds, potentially 60 to 70 plus miles per hour. And we go into our hail risk today. I am definitely watching Iowa, eastern Iowa, especially southwestern Wisconsin, northwestern Illinois. I'll show you in a little bit, but holy crap, our surface cape and just our cape in general we're pushing potentially 5,000 plus joules per kilogram of cape, okay? So that means strong updrafts. So as this water is moving up into the atmosphere, freezing and trying to fall, these updrafts catch that ice and push it back up into the atmosphere, rinse and repeat until this hail gets larger and larger and larger. We could see 3+ inch, maybe softball or larger size hail, I think, through portions of Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin today. But we could even see that. Look at this. We have this Sig 1 or this hatched area all the way down through Texas. So you guys know where you are. Check out this map. Large hail is possible today. I'm going to break down all these risk zones more, but let's just quickly get through. I just want to show you the general risk zones. Let's move into day 2. This is tomorrow. It's pretty rare you almost see an identical risk zone, at least the location, not the severity of it, but it's weird you see these kind of overlapping risk zones. You go to day 1, day 2, and that's because a lot of times when you get a lot of moisture that runs through an area, the rain can cool the atmosphere and you typically don't have as much instability the next day. What that tells me is we're going to have potentially, after all this severe weather moves out, after all this rainfall moves out, we're going to heat up, we're going to dry out very, very quickly, and that's going to give us the opportunity for a round 2 in the same exact locations tomorrow, Wednesday. You can see this out here too. You have that slight through portions of central to eastern Iowa and then central to western PA. We break this down tomorrow. There is a tornado threat, large 2% tornado threat stretching from portions of central Texas up through portions of the Midwest into the upper Midwest and then out east through the Great Lakes region. You do have that 5% hatched tornado risk tomorrow. This does include portions of almost up to Tulsa, Stillwater, Oklahoma City, down there towards Duncan and Lawton, Texas, almost down to Wichita. Well, it is down to Wichita Falls as well, so that's something to watch out for tomorrow. Here's a wind risk tomorrow, 5 to 15% chance we could see those storms capable of producing damaging winds, and then hail threat. A lot of times when you have a tornado threat, your hail threat's in a similar area because you need a lot of instability for both of these things to occur. So potentially some very large hail down here through portions of southern Kansas, central Oklahoma, and then north central Texas. A lot of the big cities in Oklahoma are going to be involved in this hail risk tomorrow, it looks like. All right, let's push out towards our day 3. Not as significant of a risk on Thursday, but we'll continue to watch and see how this develops. But we could see some severe storms stretching from portions of northwestern Tennessee, southeastern Missouri, all the way up there through southeastern Michigan, and then you could see most of Ohio being in that as well, at least central to western Ohio. Day 4, this could get significant. Okay, so we already have a 30% chance for severe weather. This is from the SPC. Not super rare, but it's definitely not common to see a 30% risk out at a day 4, which means the Storm Prediction Center thinks Friday could be quite volatile for this area. You're seeing it stretching from portions of northern Texas all the way up through portions of southeastern Minnesota and then most of Wisconsin here. You can see we're getting Illinois involved almost out towards Chicago. This is a day 4 risk zone. It's going to move. It's going to expand. It's going to change where it is. You'll see it potentially widen. You'll see the angle of it change. Don't just stare at this risk zone right now in this video and say, okay, I'm outside of it. I don't have to worry about anything Friday. Stay updated. Make sure you know what's going on as things change. We get to day 5 and there you go. Another severe threat out here. This is going to be Saturday. Portions of Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, and Michigan. So we'll have to watch out for that as well. Day 6, no severe threat. All right, let's break this down a little bit. starting off with our day one threat. Today looks volatile. I'm just going to be honest. You can see we have our tornado risk right here. You can see we have our hail risk right here. And then we have our wind risk down here. Very quick update. I had actually finished my video, and then I saw we had some changes, some updates to our risk zone today. So we also now have a SIG 2 risk. This means we could see up to EF3 plus tornadoes through portions of northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, and eastern Iowa. I did expect this to happen, but it had not been updated when I was making my video. So again, just more of a significant risk here, northern Illinois, eastern Iowa, southern Wisconsin. This is a very significant tornado risk. So an all hazard risks, that all hazard risk day, that's what we call it. Let's push over here. I wanted to show you this. This is a pretty interesting map right here. This is simulated infrared satellite. Watch this explosion of storms. So these really bright oranges, and then as we get into the blacks here, this is showing cloud tops, and these are very, very cold cloud tops. You can see these cloud tops are getting down to negative 72 degrees Celsius. What happens when warm air and moisture rushes up into the upper atmosphere? It cools, it condenses, and that's how these storms explode in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and they really start to kind of get severe down at the surface. Watch today as we get into 12, 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Central, 3. I mean, it's a volatile setup today. People need to make sure they're paying attention. It's eastern Iowa, northern Illinois, and then portions potentially all the way up to central to southern Wisconsin. Looks like southern Wisconsin, though. Really, really interesting watching this develop on the future satellite, the simulated IR satellite. So just wanted to show you guys that. Here we go. This is the future reflectivity here. This is the updraft helicity reflectivity. So when you see these little areas right here, these kind of little shaded areas, this is just this reflectivity telling us there could be some strong updrafts here. Basically, it's saying, hey, we think this may be a strong supercell. So you can see what happens today as we get into around potentially as early as 12 p.m. Central Time. We could have some strong storms firing off in central Iowa, in and around that region. As we push through the afternoon, these storms begin to expand. You see other storms beginning to fire off around it. And now we're getting into the late afternoon. And again, areas out there in eastern Iowa, I'm talking Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, Waterloo, Dubuque, you guys all need to be paying attention. And then these storms are going to be pushing east towards Madison, Rockford, Illinois, and then eventually out towards Milwaukee, Kenosha, potentially out there towards Chicago. But again, you need to start paying attention early in the afternoon today. These storms could be crossing over into Illinois and Wisconsin mid to late afternoon, and then definitely in the evening hours, we could see this thing consolidate potentially into what we call a mesoscale convective system, MCS, and this is when we could get a very damaging wind event along with still having that hail and tornado risk today. So let's make sure we're paying attention there. As I push over, you can see we're not just watching up there through portions of Iowa and Illinois and Wisconsin, but that's where I definitely think the most severe weather could be today. So does the Storm Prediction Center. But watch what's happening in the southern plains as we get into around 2, 3, 4 p.m. Central. Those storms start to fire off in central Texas, Red River Valley, pushing up into central Oklahoma. So please, as we push through the afternoon and early evening hours in Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, again, anyone who's in this risk zone out here, make sure you're paying attention. Make sure you're staying weather aware. And we could have some strong storms pushing through portions of New England as well as we get into the mid-afternoon hours. We'll say 2 to 3 p.m. and then kind of the early evening hours. Those should start to dissipate and push off the coast. All right, here's our upper or mid-level pattern, our 500 millibar pattern. This is what helps to organize storms if we do have them firing off, which we believe we will. You can see we kind of have some of these shortwave features here pushing over eastern Iowa, northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin. This is a pretty impressive look. I'll just tell you on the 500 millibar map, we have some strong winds, really, really strong flow, and some impressive shortwaves showing up here out in this region. And you can see what's happening on our lower level. This is where this is what helps to spin up the storms on the surface. And, we're looking at potentially 65, in some areas localized 70 knots of shear. So that's almost 90 mile per hour winds just above our heads, trying to, again, spin up some storms, spin these supercells, give us a chance for tornadoes. And you can see that happening again in eastern Iowa, southern Wisconsin, and northern Illinois. And then as we get a little bit later into the evening, or as we push into the early to mid evening, you can really see this shear intensify. And this is when I think we could get, like I said, more of a wind event, a bow echo off of an MCS or something like that. All right. Wanted to show you this surface-based CAPE crossover map. These colors you're looking at in the background, that's our instability. The more instability you have, the stronger these storms can get, and we have more than enough instability. At the surface, we could see up to potentially over 5,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE. Just for reference, you only need about 500 to 1,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE for these storms to fire off. We could be seeing 4 to 5 times that. And what's happening with our wind barbs? Well, if you look here, the red barb here is more near the surface, and then the blue barb, you go up to the 850 millibar level, and then that black barb is at the 500 millibar level. So this is going up in the atmosphere, and look at what's happening with these barbs as we move up in the atmosphere. You have southerly winds into westerly winds. That's rotation. You can see it here, southwesterly winds into those more westerly winds here as well. And you can see, look at this, you just straight rotation through portions of northeastern Iowa. You can see it up there in northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin as well. The crossover map with this cape, again, lots of instability, and you can see the winds rotating as we go up in the atmosphere. This is definitely a pretty significant look if you're concerned about some tornadoes in this area. We're going to have a lot of chasers out here today. I'd be surprised if we don't get a few tornadoes out here, and I'd be surprised if a couple of them aren't strong, unfortunately. All right, getting into our temperatures today, you can actually see what's happening as this model sees these storms firing off. You see this air becoming much cooler here, again, out there towards Dubuque, Waterloo, and then out there towards Madison, Wisconsin as well. And you start to get actually a little bit of a baroclinic boundary forming where these storms are firing off in that region here. But again, it's going to be nice and warm today. We're going to be pushing up towards the upper 70s. You can see the mid 80s potentially on the southern boundary here. And our dew points. Why does higher dew points help promote severe weather? Well, moist air is buoyant. And if your air is buoyant, that moisture can rise more rapidly into the upper atmosphere. Again, cool, condense into these clouds and form these storms. We're pushing 70, 71 dew points today across Iowa, across portions of Illinois and Wisconsin. Again, you can see it through Missouri as well, though. It's not just this area. Again, I'm focused on this area because this could be very severe, but I do want to zoom out and show you our dew points all the way stretching down through Missouri, the central and southern plains as well. Very, very buoyant air. So this is going to really help with that lift on these storms. Let's push a little bit further out. Once again, look at this. Instability, absolutely insane instability in this region. I pulled this sounding from earlier. You guys actually can't see it. It's just off to the left here, but 5,100 joules per kilogram of CAPE in eastern Iowa. That is an insane amount of instability. You can see the possible hazard type TOR. I think it could end up being PDS TOR. Another interesting thing on this sounding here, here's your wind starting, moving out of the south-southeast and then rotating westerly as we get up to the 500 millibar level. You can see we have that 5.0 to 6.0 effective layer SIG-TOR param. This is, again, a very, very, very volatile setup here for tornadoes in this region and large hail. All right, let's push into day 2. Let's get into the next day. Like I said, very interesting. We have almost an identical, at least the location of it, risk zone out here stretching from the southern plains up through the central plains, Midwest, out there towards the mid-Atlantic. You can see we do have a tornado threat tomorrow as well, that 5%, like I said, down there in the southern plains. And then here's our hail threat. Here's our wind threat. All right, so let's take a look at this and let me get rid of that. All right, so tomorrow, when should these storms start to fire off? It looks like we could have some storms firing off southern Illinois, central to southern Indiana as we get into around 1 p.m. So early afternoon, you can see those storms firing off in Kansas, potentially Oklahoma as well, out there in western Iowa. So this is going to be an early to mid-afternoon initiation. And then as we push into the early evening, these storms begin to move off to the east. And that's when we need most of Missouri to start paying attention, most of Illinois to start paying attention. Ohio, these storms could be moving east into your region, and then Wisconsin, again, northern Illinois getting involved. We could have some strong storms firing off in Texas as well. So everyone out here, again, in these risk zones needs to be paying attention tomorrow as well. Here's what's happening down south. This is the Rufus model. So again, watching around 1 to 2 strong storms. Kansas City, Oklahoma City, again up there towards, we could be looking at Des Moines, Dubuque again. A lot of storms firing off in the early afternoon. And then again, we take a look out here through portions of southern Illinois, southern Indiana, moving into Ohio. A lot of big cities in here as well. Indianapolis, Columbus, you're going to have to watch out. And then getting out there towards Dayton, Cincinnati. These storms could be moving through your region as we get into 3, 4, 5 p.m. tomorrow as well. What's happening with our shear tomorrow? Well, we have plenty of shear. You can see these short waves here. I'm actually on the 850 millibar. So we're down at the surface, some strong shear down at the surface. This is why our tornado threat is actually, even though we have a large 2% spread all the way up through the Midwest, this is why our tornado threat is focused down here. Again, those strong southerly winds, and that's going to be crossing over with the winds at the 500 millibar level about halfway up in the atmosphere. All right. Taking a look at what's happening with our shear a little bit further north, you can see as we push throughout the day, and actually this is a little bit of a concerning look tomorrow as we get into the mid to late evening around 8 to 9 p.m. You can see this kind of bow echo of shear forming across central Missouri, and this is concerning for me because this looks like a damaging wind event potentially that could be moving out in the St. Louis direction as well. So we'll have to watch that as we get into the middle of the evening towards the end of the evening tomorrow. Here's our instability for tomorrow. Plenty of instability across the central and southern plains. Not as much instability across portions of the Midwest, but there should be enough to produce some strong storms. Getting into the next day, now we're taking a look at Thursday. Not much of a severe threat. If this starts to look a little bit more significant, of course, I'm going to go over it with you guys. And then the next day, again, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but same area out here from the upper Midwest, almost all the way down into the southern plains. We're watching a significant severe weather threat. Like I said, it's not super rare, but it's not very common. We're looking at a 30% risk all the way out at day 4. So the Storm Prediction Center is seeing something significant for Friday. So as we get new info on this day, I'll update you. We'll get our Rufus model loading up our day 4 risk as we get into I think the evening today into the morning tomorrow. And so we'll be able to start looking at our short ranges, the NAM 3K and the Rufus, so we can really see what's happening. But again, Oklahoma City up to Tulsa. You can see Kansas City in here, Des Moines up there towards, what do we have in here? Waterloo, Cedar Rapids, all in the 30% right now. And again, this risk zone could expand. It can move around. You have Minneapolis, of course, Chicago, Milwaukee, right on the border of this. And then down there, Dallas, Fort Worth, you're going to have to watch out as well, potentially on Friday, St. Louis, lots of big cities. So we'll go over all of this. Really quickly, here's the GFS reflectivity on this day. And you can see, we see some strong thunderstorms firing off here. This would be as we get into the afternoon, late afternoon, early evening hours. And by the way, I did want to throw this in there. We could see a snowstorm potentially forming on the backside of this. Portions of Nebraska, the Dakotas, Minnesota, maybe even northwestern Iowa. Depending on how amplified this trough is, how far south this cold air drives, we could actually end up seeing a significant amount of snow with the system. The GFS isn't putting a ton down right now, but each model run, it's been kind of changing its mind. So let's watch this region as we move forward in time and see what the models do, because once again, mid to late April winter storm is definitely on the table here. Alrighty, I really appreciate you guys watching this video. If you like this type of content, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you want to join my Discord, it's completely free. The link to my Discord is in the description right below. Tons of weather updates in there every single day. Everything you want to know. There's almost 700 weather enthusiasts in there. Anytime there's a flash flood warning, tornado warning, thunderstorm warning, it goes right into the Discord. There's a bot that's linked directly to the National Weather Service, so it's an awesome resource. Again, I really appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video, or I'll see you in the live stream later today. See ya.